not me again. I ain't singing no more in vain.
No more calypso from Kendigo.
The piece of land that they say is mine, I still can't get it since 99.
No more calypso from Kendigo.
But when I look around and see the progress in my country, I have to hit the stage again with some social commentary. Tourism improving daily, much better electricity. Small business on every corner, and now the schools having computer. And that is the truth, I only can sing the truth. With so much development, how could you condemn the government? A finance judge and jury, that blatant hypocrisy. Listen me, Vance and Amory, you and your party, I find you guilty. Oh, you're building this economy. You encourage offshore company.
I find you guilty.
Because them taxes help the country.
You're guilty, guilty.
Now you resurfacing the main road.
I find you guilty.
I find that you're a man to your word.
You're guilty, guilty.
No income houses for your people.
I find you guilty.
Why did you make them affordable?
You're guilty, guilty.
How do you plead?
Guilty, guilty, guilty.
How do you plead?
Guilty, guilty, guilty.
For all that development, we make you a rough sentence. 5 more years in government, that's your punishment. 5 more years in government. Let me go. If you do the crime, you have to do the crime. Build the country, have to run the country. Let me go. Get back on stage, go back and sing. Do your thing and you're bound to win.
No more calypso from Kendigo.
Sing a tune on Premier me, how we leave the island so frequently.
No more calypso from Kendigo.
But when I see Premier me, leave the island so frequently, I don't hear working hard in the interests of this country. Tell me how the opposition caused me to lose the Ritz-Carlton. Then they up and down cussing for Malcolm, how we did nothing for tourism. But I hate this speech, I only can sing the truth. I don't give a vex with me, and not taking sides for nobody. Judging from what I see progress in the country. Vance and Amory, you and your party, I find you guilty. Oh, you're progressing the first degree. You have a brand new control tower.
I find you guilty.
The asphalt plant and the new paver.
You're guilty, guilty.
You build new schools here in this country.
I find you guilty.
You renovate the cotton ginnery.
You're guilty, guilty.
The waterfront shaping up super.
I find you guilty.
Boy, I feel to sentence you forever.
You're guilty, guilty.
How do you plead?
Guilty, guilty, guilty.
How do you plead?
Guilty, guilty, guilty.
With all that development, I'm giving you a rough sentence. 5 more years in government, that's your punishment.
Always satisfying.
Vaughn Radio,
The Powerhouse.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Talk That Get Results. I'm Reverend Webbo Herbert, and as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line? Address it to Let's Talk program in Kia Vaughn Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis. Or you can give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and 01700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or a comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. But we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Talk That Get Results. You can also follow us on our YouTube channel at Vaughn Radio and our Facebook our page at Vaughn Radio. Thank you all again for joining us. As advertised, tonight, you just heard a bit of history from Vance Amory. And the evidence will show that the late Honorable Vance Amory made a lot of his history in these hallowed halls here, right here at Vaughn Radio. And we've got the stuff, right? No editing, some of which you'll hear tonight. And you will, and those of you who don't know, you'll get an idea of the measure of the man. And a little later on, you'll be able to call in and you can add to the history pages what you know of Vance Amory. One thing for sure I knew, that he didn't back down from anything, especially when it comes to Nevis. And the evidence will show that a little later on. Another person who made a lot of their history right here between these walls is here with us tonight. Not many people know this part of the history, that the visionary Vance Amory, before the nation knew of what he did or what was revealed in about 2017, round about 2005 leading into 2006, when arguably the concerned citizens movement were at their lowest and needed to be rebuilt. Vance Amory drafted in this person who is with us tonight with an eye on continuance and taking over the leadership of the party and consequently the island of Nevis, to continue the same fight. Some say two different styles, but the same mission. The Honorable Mark Brantley is with us tonight. But before I get to him, let me tell you who else is coming. A little later on, we'll be talking with Ted Hobson, who was the chairman of the Concerned Citizens Movement in 1993, the 1995 period. Young folks, you don't know about that, but that's the part of the history and the measure of Vance Amory and the history of Nevis. Maybe, who knows, we'll get a little bit of that tonight as well. As I said, that's what we have, the hard evidence, and then you know the rest. Also, we'll be talking with a few more folks. And then, not a lot of talking we'll do. We'll open up the lines and we'll hear from you. That's how it is going to be for tonight. As advertised, the Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, good evening.
Webbo, good evening to you and good evening to the listening public. Of course, this is a platform, Let's Talk, that I know very well, and I recount that you gave me a start on radio right here many years ago when my hair was black and I was a lot slimmer. You Webbo, have said something at the outset, that a lot of history has been created in these hallowed halls here at VON Radio. And I believe that the history of Vance Amory is inextricably bound up with the history of Vaughn Radio, as is my own history. I have come tonight because, of course, we were shocked by the news on Saturday last that the Honorable Vance Winkworth Amory, our second Premier, that he had passed away in the United Kingdom. It appeared to us quite sudden and dramatic, and indeed many of us did not initially believe that sad news. Of course, Webbo, it is said that in life we must prepare for death, and that death is a part of life, and that it is an end that awaits us all. But that doesn't make it any easier. And the reality is that Vance Amory was no ordinary man. He was in every sense an extraordinary human being. A man in whom the elements were so mixed. The elements of humility, of agility, of good looks, of an ability to communicate in a way that people understood, empathy, people skills, and I believe an acumen politically that is unsurpassed. His DNA, Webbo, is imprinted on every facet of Nevisian life and Nevisian development. And let us remember that Vance Amory was contributing to Nevis and making his mark long before politics. Some of us are only known in politics, but he was known in so many other fields, whether it's in banking, cricket, athletics, whether it was in football, where I'm told he was an excellent footballer, in the civil service, in the church, where he was a lay preacher, and indeed he would have made history as the longest serving premier of the island of Nevis, having done 14 years and then come back and done an additional 5 years. The truth, Webbo, is that you have given us a little bit of history tonight, because the Honourable Vance Amory, I think, had a vision that far surpassed what us ordinary humans see. And as I listened to Miko's song, very well put together, about finding him guilty and sentencing him to more time in office, I think the line that struck me most was that he felt to sentence him forever. Because the truth is that leaders such as Vance are rare and difficult to find. And in my own life, I have learned much from him in terms of how he deals with situations. You are right that we are not alike. We are fundamentally different, and sometimes we come at the same problem in different ways. But I think that what I learned from him was his commitment to finding a solution that was beneficial to the people of Nevis. And that is also what I have sought to do. On Saturday, I would have had the ability to reach out to his widow, Vernie Amory, to his children, Bena and Adiola, to his sister Meredith, and I have expressed, of course, my condolences to them all on behalf of my own family, but also on behalf of the cabinet and of the people of Nevis. The outpouring, Webbo, that I have seen, and so many have reached out to me, from St. Eustatius, from Jamaica, from Antigua, from Anguilla, from all across the region. We have heard from Mayor Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados. We have heard from Gaston Brown, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda. I have heard from the Foreign Minister of Jamaica. I've heard from foreign ministers in Belize and Trinidad and Tobago. The reality is that there's been an outpouring across the region. And it tells me something. It tells me that Vance Amory was not just local. He was not just Nevisian. In fact, he was a son of Nevis. Some may say, and I think with much authority, he was a favored son of Nevis. But he was not only Nevisian in that sense. He was Kittitian and Nevisian. He was Caribbean. And he has been recognized all across the region. I saw a statement from the CARICOM Secretary General. I have had people contacting me whom I do not know, but who are saying to me that they knew Vance at Cave Hill. They knew him as a cricketer for the Combined Islands team. Many would not know, Webbo, that he would have played cricket under the captaincy for the Combined Islands team, I'm told, of present Prime Minister Keith Mitchell of Grenada. And so there is, I think, a depth to Vance, who achieved all that at still a relatively young age, because in today's world, 72 isn't really that old. And it is really a sad loss to us all. I should say that tomorrow on my own show here at Vaughan Radio, we will dedicate that show to the memory of Vance Amory, and really will hope to do what you're doing tonight, to give an opportunity to persons at home and abroad to call in and to share their own view of him. Just let me end this segment, Webbo, by indicating that you are correct that in late 2005, early 2006, Vance Amory would have had a conversation with me. I should say something that I've said to people that they have said to me that they don't quite accept, but it is the truth, that I had no political ambitions at the time. I was young, very enamored with the law, and wanted to be the best lawyer that I could be. In fact, my life map, if you will, my roadmap was I wanted to be Queen's Counsel and wanted to be a judge. That was my roadmap. But he came and he spoke to me. I wasn't at the time particularly moved or interested, but I think the conversation got to a different level after the CCM lost the election in 2006 and the new government under the leadership then of the Honorable Joseph Parry took over. And I remember Vance and his wife Vernie coming to my home in Montpelier. Because if you think that I was non-committal to politics, my wife was vehemently opposed to it. And I remember Vernie taking my wife to one side and Vance taking me to one side and talking to us. And you're right, because he saw something in me that I myself did not see in me at that time and at that age. I was a young man then of just 36 years old. And the fact that he would have looked and seen some value, that he could have come and talked about the party and talked about succession and talked about how we needed to rebuild the party, I believe that that speaks volumes. And I will say, Webbo, that part and parcel of the legacy of Vance Amory is that he reached out not only to me, but also to the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, who has also been transformative in terms of his role in rebuilding the party. And it speaks volumes, I believe, to foresight and to vision, because he saw in us two young people something that he could use to help to rebuild CCM after its loss at the polls in 2006, and then of course just a year later the tragic death of Malcolm Bichard, whom we knew was a giant insofar as the party was concerned. I will say this of Vance, that he, unlike most others, had a succession plan and executed his succession plan, and did so in an orderly fashion. In fact, when he passed, I reflected on all the photographs that I have with him, and one that stood out was when he passed to me the hammer, which is of course a symbol for the Concerned Citizens Movement. And I believe that speaks volumes, Webbo, because many of us overstay our welcome insofar as politics is concerned, and the public has to push us out. That was not Vance. Vance exited politics at the height of his power and popularity, and that, I think, speaks for itself in terms of his own vision and his own intent to transition the island of Nevis to different leadership and transition the party to different leadership. And we are all here today in large measure because of the work, the vision, and the passion of Vance Winkworth Amory.
You know, it was important that you spoke to that, because as I indicated, that's part that is not really so much in the public domain. And then person will be able now to fit that into 2017 and 13 and 14 and beyond. Now, I don't want to keep you for too long, but I want to do two things. One that you know about, and one that you probably heard about. Where, as far as Vance, Mr. Amory is concerned, I call him the Rev. And these are two of the things that not everybody will want to hear about it, but these are two of the giant things that he stood for, which you know, are indelible marks on Nevis's history. As I said, the first one you know about, and you can give us a little comment on that. The other one you heard about. So let's do the one that you know about.
The face of all of the circumstances and all that is just and decent, this saga seems to be a conspiracy against the people of this country to deprive lawfully registered voters, citizens and residents alike, of their right to vote and to choose the government of their liking to run the affairs of Nevis in a fair election. The sad part of this saga is that it appears that the process of seeking to remove from the voters list the names of persons who have been legitimately registered to vote applies only to some persons and seems to be arbitrarily practiced, and is being done in a clandestine and secretive manner by a registration officer who has been challenged and who we believe is improperly applying the regulation. It will be remembered that the credibility of this registration officer, Ms. Bernadette Lawrence, has been questioned because...
You know about that?
Webbo, it was, I think, one of the most tumultuous periods in our recent history when we saw an election stolen. Let's be blunt about it here on the island of Nevis. We saw people being disenfranchised. We saw people marching in the streets of Nevis. Not since perhaps the marches that we would have heard about in secession and all of that. I was too young to know anything about those really, but the history books would have told us that perhaps not since then have people been this agitated. So Vance was, of course, the leader of CCM at that time when we went into the 2011 elections, and the result was one that I believe brought shame to the people of Nevis and to our democracy. And it was a conspiracy, as he said, of the highest order. Conspiracy which was assisted from Bastia, but sought to promote and to force upon the people of Nevis a government that they did not want. And I was, as you know, deeply involved in that, because the seat that was the decider for that election was the St. John's seat, which I was told that I lost by 14 votes with 14 spoiled ballots, and some 203 of CCM supporters, my supporters, having been unceremoniously removed from the voters list. Some of them in the dead of night without notice. And I always recall the story, Webbo, of when we did the election petition. A young lady showed up and said she wanted to give evidence in the case because her name was also removed. And when we checked the reason that she had been removed, the registration officer said that she had died. And I never forgot that as the lady took to the stand, very much alive, that the lead counsel, Tony Astafan QC, for the then respondents, said to the judge, Lazarus has risen. That was the nature of things then, and in all of that, I think Vance Amory provided leadership. I'll say one other thing, Webbo, quickly, because I know we're constrained for time. After that election was stolen, the NRP at the time sought to have their swearing in at ETW Park. And a massive crowd, a sea of blue, had gathered in town, and the mood was ominous. People knew they had been robbed. People knew that this government under Joseph Parry for the second term was illegitimate. And people gathered at the gate of the ETW Park. There were only a handful of police officers, and all they had, most of them, was a little switch. And it was one of those things where that all you had to do was to light the candle, and I believe that there would have been serious problems in Charlestown. And much has been said about Vance Amory, but I don't know if this has ever really been given the prominence that it deserved, because as it started to get dark and we became fearful that the crowd would become unmanageable, I recall Vance Amory putting his hand in the air and saying, let us go. Let us go away from this place. The message that we came to send, that message has been delivered. Please go to your homes. Let us go. And I realized then, and with the benefit of hindsight, that it was his way of ensuring that Nevis did not get the brunt of any illicit or improper activity by that crowd. He read the mood, Webbo, of the people. He understood the anger and the hurt, and he said in his own inimitable style, calm yourself, go to your home. And I realized that the people slowly left and went to their homes. Somebody else might have decided to pour gasoline on what was already there, but Vance did the opposite. And we did it the right way. We went to court and we handled that matter. And of course, within 18 months, we were back at the polls. And the people corrected that shame and elected the government of their choice in 2013.
So that's what you knew about. And I don't know if you heard this before, but I think you just, as you were explaining that, you did say that you were a little boy then.
Mm-hmm.
This you may not have known a lot about. I don't know if you ever heard it, but if you want history, it's right in these halls, right?
Citizens, I speak to you at this time to inform you of a few issues which I believe should be of importance to you at this time. In the 6 weeks since the elections, in which you returned the concerned citizen movement to government with an increased popular vote, I have spoken to you by way of radio on a number of occasions, and on each occasion I have specifically set out that this CCM party in government will, in this new term, vigorously pursue the matter of self-determination for Nevis. The separation of the government of Nevis from the government of St. Kitts is paramount for this administration. The results of the last election and the fact that this issue, the issue of secession for Nevis and the independence of the people of Nevis, was a fundamental issue in that election, makes it imperative that the matter be pursued with some urgency. It is still clear to your CCM government, and I am sure it must now be very clear to all of you, that the way forward for Nevis is the path of independence. On April 17th, the new session of the Nevis Island Assembly will be opened. The members of the Assembly will be sworn in and will subscribe to the respective oaths to serve the people of Nevis. In addition, the Deputy Governor General of Nevis has given his consent to present on that occasion the new proposals and policies for the Nevis Island government for the next 5 years and into the 21st century. This is the presentation of what is called the throne speech. This presentation will focus on those issues and policies which will be pursued by your CCM government. 1. To increase investment in the productive enterprises, both private and public, in tourism, agriculture, informatics, and in other commercial activities. 2. Create jobs so that all our people can have incomes to improve their quality of life, so that they can have money to spend on their children into the future. 3. The preservation and enhancement of the environment and ecosystems. 4. Development of the physical and social infrastructure of the Nevis Island to facilitate the increased investments and provide an environment in which the economy could continue to grow and develop, and to ensure that we have sustainable economic growth over the long term. Fellow citizens, fundamental to this matter is the issue of secession, and I am pleased to inform you that I have had discussions with the leader of the opposition, who has assured me that he will support the secession bill whenever it is reintroduced in the Assembly. Fellow citizens, I have waited until now to advise you of this matter because I wanted to ensure that the leader of the opposition was aware of the intention of this your CCM government to pursue the matter of independence for Nevis as vigorously as possible and as expeditiously as can be done.
Whereby I wasn't that young. When I spoke about being too young, I was talking about the time of Sir Simeon Daniel and the secession issue. But this issue,
Yes.
I was very, very involved. Matter of fact, you will recall that again the Honorable Vance Amory had called on me as a young lawyer to lead the consultations on the new constitution for the island of Nevis, had the secession vote succeeded. And we would have traversed the length and breadth of the island of Nevis, gathering information and writing a new proposed constitution for the island of Nevis. And so I remember very well this period in our history, and remember very well where were the efforts made by the Honorable Vance Amory then. And that was, let us recall, his response to untoward pressure towards the island of Nevis that was emanating from Bastia. That was his expression of how we could resolve these issues between Bastia and Charlestown. And he decided in his wisdom that clause 113 enshrined in our constitution was the appropriate approach. And he dealt with it with dignity. He dealt with it, you listen to his voice there, calm. I mean, the one word I would always use to describe the Honorable Vance Amory was calm. He was always calm. And a lot of times, with Alexis and I, we have a different temperament. And he would just be calm. And when I felt like things were spinning out of control sometimes, I think his calmness was really important. And it is something that I have observed and learned from, and even now in my own role, I believe that sometimes it's important to be calm. And that was always his approach to these types of matters.
All right, so just a couple of the issues, and I played those deliberately because you're in that role now, where you have the responsibility for the island of Nevis. This is your tenure now, and for folks to understand that everybody has their own history in reference to Mr. Amory and how he dealt with things and so on and so forth. But however he dealt with them, the point is that he had the issues to deal with. And I don't know whether or not those issues have entirely gone away. But again, it's just his way of dealing with it. And I mentioned earlier, Ted was the chairman of the Concerned Citizens Movement in 1993. That was something else. That was tumultuous as well. So, Mr. Brantley, we thank you for spending the time with us.
Sure.
I know that you said also tomorrow night you'll be in and you'll be doing some more of this stuff, so people are encouraged to tune in again as well tomorrow. Anything you'd like to say finally, Mr. Brantley?
Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity. As I said, for me, this Let's Talk program is where it all started. You're correct that so much history for this island of Nevis is inextricably bound up with VON Radio. It is to this studio that we have come in crisis. It is to this studio that we have come in celebration. And I believe that the island of Nevis and the wider Federation is really at a crossroads now, politically and otherwise. And the memory of Vance Amory, the man who I believe has done so much for this island and for this country, it is my hope that that memory will guide us in the days and weeks and months ahead, and that we will find a resolution to the issues that now afflict us in his name and in his memory, because I believe that to the very end he had the best interests of the people of our country at heart. And so I am not going to engage with those who want to talk about style and want to talk about who would have done when. I believe that each of us has our own approach. But I am convinced, Webbo, that his approach and his love for this island was undiminished, and that he served Nevis in every capacity since he was a young man until the very end. And may his soul rest in eternal peace.
The Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley. Mr. Brantley, thank you again. We'll be continuing. Ted Hobson. We'll be hearing from Ted Hobson next. And also we'll have two other in-house guests, and then we'll be hearing from you, the general public. Thank you all. Thank you again, Mr. Brantley. Have a good evening. Get a break and come right back.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts, or call them at 466-4938.
back on this episode of Talk That Get Results. We're doing a special for the late Premier, Vance Amory, Premier of Nevis. And we just heard from the current Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley. Again, we thank him very much for coming in. Ted Hobson is the chairman, among other things, was the chairman of the Concerned Citizens Movement for a number of years. And indeed, the chairman in that tumultuous period when we had that impasse, 1993 to 1995 period. I don't know what he'll speak about. Ted Hobson, it's so good to hear you. Good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. It was a pleasure listening to the Premier discussing Vance Amory with you.
Yes.
But, Webbo, permit me to record my own tribute to one of Nevis's illustrious sons, Vance Wentworth Amory. Vance Amory was my friend, former colleague, and client. I say client because up to his death, he referred all legal matters or issues he had to me. My first encounter with Vance Amory was on the cricket field at the then Grove Park, now the El Comito Park, during a trial match to select the 1965 Nevis cricket team for that year's Leeward Island cricket tournament. I was appointed captain of the team. Vance was selected as one of the opening batsmen. He was the baby of the team. He was just 16 years of age. In that tournament, he showed enormous promise as an opening batsman. As a result, I spent much time with him and coaching and encouraging him after the tournament. Not long after, I was appointed the Deputy High Commissioner for the Eastern Caribbean States in England. However, I kept in touch with his progress in cricket and was pleased that the promise had borne fruits, as he was later selected to represent the Leeward Islands, the combined Windward Islands team, and was even selected to play for the West Indies President's 11 against the touring English team. I returned to the Federation in 1979, 12 years after my absence abroad, and renewed the friendship with Vance. In 1983, I decided to enter politics, and the first person I turned to was Vance Amory. However, he indicated he was not ready to get involved in politics. He was then the Permanent Secretary of Finance in the NRP administration. However, in 1986, when he was refused study leave by the Premier Daniel NRP administration, he was encouraged to resign and form a new party. Thus, the CCM came into existence. So popular he was that he won the St. George's seat in the 1987 local election at his first attempt. In 1988, my party, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and the Concerned Citizen Movement, CCM, merged, and I was named chairman, and Vance was elected president. We worked very closely together after that. In 1992, the CCM was able to win the local election, and he became the second Premier of Nevis. CCM remained in office for 14 years, from 1992 to 2006. And in those years, the CCM, under his leadership, changed the face of Nevis. The waterfront was transformed. The deep water port was established. The island was opened up with new roads, and of course, Vance Amory Airport was constructed. Not to mention the establishment of low-income housing settlements around the island. Unfortunately, the CCM lost the 2006 elections, which brought in the NRP administration, which proceeded to overspend and destroy the good management of the economy that Vance had established. In 2013, when Vance was again the Premier, he proceeded to correct much of this mismanagement which the NRP had left behind. For the 19 years when Vance was Premier, I was honored to be either the special advisor to the Premier or the legal advisor to the administration, which gave me an armchair view of the skill and temperament of the deceased. He was calm, thoughtful, deliberate, and an extremely effective leader. After the federal election in 2015, he became Senior Minister, Minister of Labour et al., which gave him the opportunity to perform both at the local level in Nevis and the federal level for the nation as a whole. After the 2020 federal election, he was made ambassador. And as an icing on the cake, 1 month ago, he was given the opportunity to lead the delegation to the Heads of Government Intersessional Meeting in Belize. For me, one of Vance Amory's greatest achievements was at a critical time in the history of the CCM. He recruited and promoted the next generation of CCM and Nevis leadership in the persons of Mark Brantley and Alexis Jeffers, who are now the Premier and the Deputy Premier, respectively, of Nevis. Before I end, let me say, I work with a number of the national heroes of our nation, and I had a front row seat to observe the stature, skill, and performance of all of them. And to my mind, Vance Windwell Amory deserved to be considered as a fit and proper person to join that august body. His performance, stature, and the life he has lived and the lives he has touched demanded. Rest in peace, my friend. My sincere condolences to his wife Bernie, his children and siblings. May his soul rest in peace. Webbo.
I call him the great Ted Hobson. Ted,
thank you very much.
You never say no to us. Thank you very much again. Okay?
Okay. All the best.
Okay, that was Ted Hobson, and that was his contribution. These are people who know of Vance Amory, right? And let me just make one more note on Ted. Ted's history, a big part of it also written on these walls right here at the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse, and we so much appreciate it. Now, we're getting close to when we will hear from everybody else. So I'm encouraging you to organize yourself, you know. We don't, you know, we take as little time as possible. And I'm encouraging everybody as well, that everybody's got their own history with Mr. Amory. You may hear somebody say something which you don't agree with or whatever, right? The way human nature is, I'm encouraging us not to compete with what others say, but to appreciate, right? Secondly, I learned many years ago that death and funerals in particular always have everything in it, including confusion. Okay? I learned that. This may be no different. However, right? For Mr. Amory's sake, as I said, don't compete. If Edric has a different history than Ted, and you have a different history to there in terms of your relationship and what you know, just appreciate it. Okay, I just wanted to mention that. Now, in-house, we have two more persons, and they're going to give us their take, and then we're going to go to the lines uninterrupted for your take. Some folks are already sending me messages. Somebody just sent me a message from the USA. Says Premier Brantley was powerful, right? Everybody's going to be powerful tonight, okay? Now, next up is a fellow who ran against Vance Amory. I don't know if he was going to mention that in his tribute. But his history, also a part of it, written on these hallowed walls. Edric W. Stanley, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to the listening audience and viewing audience. Of course, it is a pleasure of being invited to this particular portion of the Let's Talk program tonight, especially to give tribute to the late Honorable Premier, past Premier, and as you mentioned, I have been pushed to run against
Okay. Vintage Edric, before you give the details, let me just bring in the other person who is with you. He is a friend of Vance Amory on the campaign trail as well. If I'm writing my history of Vance Amory, this fellow, for the most part, it was a green Jeep, and he had the speakers on the top, and everywhere CCM went, he was always there. And then himself and the Reverend everybody knows we're friends, personal friends, before politics, during politics, and after politics, right? And so when I don't see Rev, I'll drop in below the park and I'll say, Swanee, nice to hear from Rev. Clinton Swanson, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. Good evening, the listening audience, and thank you for having me here tonight, Webbo. It's a very, very, prestigious time for me in this very sad situation.
Okay, so both of them are going to give you their segments. Now, let's go to Edric, and then we'll get to Swanee. So, here we go, Edric.
Webbo, to be honest, I was set up to take on the former Premier, and they knew most definitely that I could not be successful against the former Premier. At the same time, they promised, you run against him, we know exactly that you cannot be victorious against the giant. Upon the next go around, you will run in your own district. And I actually took the bait. I don't run from a fight. I'm a team player. As a result, I went, and unfortunately, I lost, with the hope that on the next go around, I would be running in my district. But politics is a strange game, makes strange bedfellows. As a result, wherever the captain puts me to field, even right in the slips, where you will get the ball coming directly at your face, I'm going to go there simply because the captain says it. And the NRP put me to run against the giant, the late Vance Wentworth Amory. I knew what the outcome was going to be before I started, but I decided as a team player to follow through with the promise that I will run in my district. It never happened simply because this game of politics, filled with tricks, misconceptions, and ultimately decisions by people who truly want to see you fail. So I was set up, but I learned quickly, not to be set up again, and as a result, I actually left that ship. So where I am now, I am in a better place. Now, let me send my condolences out to his wife, Vernie Amory, and his siblings. God didn't make people the same way. He was quite a unique fellow, and he put out at the time the effort that was required to be at the top of his game. Any game he was about to play, he was at the top of his game. He worked toward it. As a result, he became an ace cricketer. He became an ace leader. He became an ace premier. And ultimately, Ted said it for all of us. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
Swanee.
Yeah, Webbo, thank you very much again. I would not really get into the political part regarding Vance because I knew him long before he got into politics. As a matter of fact, the days leading up to him forming CCM and eventually becoming Premier of Nevis, we were extremely close as he lived with me in St. Croix. My first recollection of Vance was in Charleston Secondary School grounds, where I think it was 1964 or somewhere around there. I met him there, and he playing cricket. We somehow or the other we gelled, and we played a lot of cricket together. And I remember early morning sometimes he will come into town to practice in Grove Park. And the afternoon before he will kind of roll this little leg break thing to the little actions. Said, meet me here tomorrow morning at 7:30 or 7:20. And I would always be there. School starts at 9:15, but Vance would be in the park at about 10 minutes after 7, and we'll practice until the time to go to school. That friendship continued as he got older, into the Leeward Islands team, into the Combined Islands team. And his success was my pleasure. I literally knew everything that he would do when he got into a cricket field. And shortly after that, I went to St. Croix to live. He went to Cayfield. But every occasion, holidays especially, Christmas, New Year's, whatever, there would be a card coming from Vance Amory. And, something that I cherish, because the minute I see he is writing on the envelope, I know this was something special. That relationship continued very, very steadily until the end. Even sometimes, now we have computers and things of that nature, I'll get the emails. But that relationship continued for over 50 years. Then I remember one time I came to Nevis, and he worked at the bank and didn't really visit him much. But he was outside, he was inside the administration building in his office as a permanent secretary. He called me and said, let's talk. He said, how would you like me to be in St. Croix with you? I said, great. I thought Vance was making a joke. So we got in and we talked. He said, you got any space for me? Sure, man, come, let's go. He gave me a letter to give Dr. Simon Jones St. Jackson to take to St. Croix. That was sometime in 1986. And 1987, he emerged, and we were there together, and he stayed there. My best friend, the best time I ever knew with a person, an individual. We shared almost everything together. We played a lot of cricket together. I organized a team they called Chances Are, and he took over the captaincy. And I think we won every match because we were able to attract people. We had players from other islands who lived in St. Croix. They would just be attracted to the team. And they came there and they played with us. And Kennedy Simmons was one of them, Kennedy Rollins. And we had an excellent cricket team and a lot of divisions, and we played extremely well. And I saw every side of Vance playing for the cricket team. There are sides of Vance that people would never see. And there are sides of him that other people will see, but not very often. But he was immaculate. He was extremely brilliant. People just look at him and fall in love with him. I remember the first time he won the election to be Premier of Nevis. And one of the big individuals in government in the Virgin Islands, they told him, Vance, once she cried. She said, such a great man. How come we couldn't have him here? And, our relationship was just, something very special. He continued with my family. All of us got together. He actually was my best man at my wedding. All my children, call him uncle. Whenever he come to St. Croix, we share whatever it is together, whether he come on official business or not. We end up sharing a lot of them together. And on the political arena, as I said, I'm not going to talk about that because everybody else know more about that than me. But listening to Vance on the platform, I think he was excellent. Other people might have more charisma and might talk, better. But Vance gave you what you wanted to hear. No jokes, a little joke coming between. But he was extremely serious in whatever he did. And at the same time, was able to relate things that the smallest child or the oldest individual would understand. And he made love with everything that he did with people. He made them shake their hand. You could cuss him. He'll just hold you and shake your hand, and there's a big smile after that. And that's what I remembered about Vance. And the political people who came in his way, he didn't really attack them. He just did what he had to do, and they were dismissed. So that is what I have to say. I'd like to say a very, to his wife, Ronnie, and the children, especially Adiola and Abina, and all his siblings. We all are basically one family. I'd like to say good night to all of them and hope that, we continue the love that Vance that we shared. And the whole Nevis will be able to enjoy and appreciate what he did for us as Nevisians. Thank you.
Guys, I really appreciate what you just said. I thought getting you would do the variety, and I think it's doing that. And Swanee, you don't think Edric is a superstar?
He is.
He had to explain that he was set up. Who set you up, Edric?
Well, it was Wendy Loggins and the Honorable Rosie Parry. He told them.
They set you up because they know you couldn't win.
Right. They knew I couldn't.
Anyway, gentlemen, you got a final word you want to say, and then we'll start going to the lines, and that's how we'll end tonight. But your final word, Edric.
Well, I know that Nevis has lost one of his illustrious sons, one who made mammoth, unparalleled contribution to the islands of St. Kitts and Nevis and further afield, simply because of his character, his charm, and his good-natured person. And as a result, we mourn his loss. He came maybe about 3 months ago to my house, and I was delighted when he came. So what I said to him, "How are you doing?" He said he thought of me, and he actually had to come by. We spoke very briefly, and then he left. My interaction with him over the years had been very cordial. I mean, when the party started, which was in St. Croix, maybe not, but I was at the very first meeting. So, I actually told him, I'm not sure where I am in terms of supporting you against my cousin Sim Daniel, but at the same time, he always had an eye out and beckoned and asked me to join him. The Honorable Joseph Parry asked me the same time too. But I gave Joseph Parry the nod, not realizing that he had ulterior motives, all right, which came front and center in stark reality. It was designed to crook me. And as a result, we entered an election, and when they thought they were going to pick up victory, they kicked me off the boat. As a result, I swam ashore and and I'm here, still standing.
Okay, Edric. Thanks much. We'll probably see you next week. Okay, Swanee, finally.
Yeah, I would just really want to say how much we appreciated the great gentleman. And earlier you were talking about the confusion at the entrance to Grove Park when anybody in blue was denied entering the park, and a victory that the NRP had that was very, very controversial. And to see Mr. Amory stand up there and was able to control such a huge crowd that had the potential of breaking into something a lot more serious. But a simple wave of a hand, the simple word or two that made a big difference, ended all the confusion that could have taken place in the afternoon. And I think that is one of the greatest things. And of course the secession bid that we spoke about earlier, that was something that hurt Vance extremely, but we survived and we are here today. Hopefully we might be able to accomplish what he had envisioned for Nevis then, but we were so close, yet so far. And congratulations to him, and really extend condolences to everybody who really loved Vance and appreciated him for what he did for themselves and what they did for Nevis in particular. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, guys, thank you again for dropping by. We start getting ready for you now in the audience. 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. We encourage you to call in and give us what you think, whatever it is, in terms of Mr. Emery and the condolences or the comfort that you have for the family. We'll take a break and then we will come right back.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts or call them at 466-4938.
Okay, here we go with our first contribution from the outside in the audience. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Webber, and all of your guests. Good evening to all the listeners at home and abroad. Let me first send advance birthday greeting to my brother Bobo, Calvin Bobo Freeman in Anguilla, Stony Ground. Tomorrow is his birthday. Now I want to send condolences to the family of Mr. Amory. Now 2 things stuck out with me. One was his management of the Nevis economy. I don't know if you were aware, but Mr. Amory started to create surpluses You know, I used to wonder if he was afraid to have a deficit for years, because I used to work on the accounts. You know? He would make sure that he does not overspend. Now, the other thing which nobody mentioned was the 1993 event when there was a tie in St. Kitts between the PAM and the Labour Party, and he was approached. Now, he suffered tremendous scorn, criticism for years for it. But I believe that he took a principled stand, you know, not wanting to get involved in it, because he was offered the position of Prime Minister. You're aware of it, right?
Yeah, go ahead, caller.
Yes. Now, it took something for somebody to pass up an opportunity like that would have even put him above the other party in Nevis. And I always admired him for it. Some decisions we make are hard, but in the long run, they work out. So condolences to him and to all of his family. May God bless his soul. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So 1-869-469-1616 and 01700. And we ask you to, whatever your memory of him is, you let us know, and I will encourage everybody else to appreciate, you know, what others have to say. May not be exactly what you want to highlight. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo.
Yes.
I'm calling because Saturday morning when I got the news that Vance passed away, I didn't believe, because I had planned to call Vance because I haven't seen him a time about a month ago on the dock in Charlestown. Vance and I are very close because he's a cousin of mine. His grandmother is my father's sister. Vance came to St. Croix with the Nevis team and playing against Antigua. And he stayed with me. And I showed him around St. Croix, took him to the hotel that I was working. But after leaving St. Croix, I moved to the U.S. And I was uptown on the train, heading downtown, and a friend of mine, a lawyer, told me that Vance is the premier because I lost contact with Vance. And since I got back home here, Vance and I got real close. Up to this minute, I can't fathom that Vance is on. Because I see him every day, I see him everything ahead of me, in front of me. So, God. Have a good night, Webber.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate it. 1-869-469-1616 or 1700. We'll take your calls, your contribution, and
look, I'm done with that. On this stage I'm not going back.
No more calypso, rockin' Beatle.
I'm getting old and I'm getting cold. Lucifer ain't gonna get me soul.
No more calypso.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. I just like to acknowledge two things here. Mr. Amory was a good man. When I was in St. Croix to have my baby, and whenever I be going on my feet, he will sound like the Lord told you, and this big day we're going again. And he will turn around and take me where I want to go. So I just want to give my condolences to his family and friends, and let them be comforted at this time of the evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
I went to the whole country and made my inquiry, and tonight as judge and jury, a lot of nigga come vex with me. Vance and we, you and
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Yes.
I'm calling here from the station. I know Vance since 1963. I came to me with camping with Pope by General School. And I know Vance a long time. He's a very good person. Vance should have made West Indies side as the first Nevis guy. Vance Emery played for the present 11. He make 48 and what boy name? Kamash make 50 something, and Tony Cole just say that you should turn his 40s into 50s and his 50s into 100, and they rob the man. He should have made us to his side. But I tell you, Vance was a great man, and I will say accept my sympathy, the whole of Nevis and his family, everybody. I will like the funeral to keep in El Camino Village Park because the church them cannot hold the amount of people coming there. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks much. Have a good evening.
you remove them houses in Newcastle.
I'll find you guilty.
You build new houses for them people.
You're guilty.
You extend the runway at the airport.
I'll find you guilty.
You build a brand new depot airport.
You're guilty.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Webbo. I want to send out my condolences to the Amory family. I used to be a police officer in Nevis, and on several occasions I had to drive into different functions. And I can't remember no time at all hearing him saying anything bad about anyone. He was quite friendly and had a very warm smile. He was a man of the people, and he was also a very, very good man. And he will be sadly missed by the people of Nevis and the Federation on the whole. May his soul rest eternal.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
Hello, good evening.
Good night, brother.
Yes.
Yeah, good evening, brother. Good night.
Good evening. Go ahead, please.
Brother, I myself that I want to share my little word with Vance Amory. When I was a young boy coming up, in the combine I went and legal outside and think it Nevis. Vance Amory was the opening batsman for Nevis. And he was a spank. These any bowler, Benjamin and all whoever come up to him, he spanked him over to the bungee. That's when I was in the ball going to pass. And he let me come in the Red Island side, migrate to the combine, and he has done well. And what about the close story to Mr. Amory, not when he playing cricket, is when the community concept farm, and he come down and say, I will go and I was meeting and share word with him. And he was a humble, peaceful man. I speak to him about 3 weeks ago, before he passed him. And anytime I meet him, I say, when you look at a couple of them strokes too, you look at a couple of them strokes too, them cover job. He said, yes man. You know, so I myself just want to send my condolences out to the family of Vance Amory, wife and children then. And you know, he was a farmer premier, and he became the ambassador. And we want to wish his family well and continue to do what they got to do. You know, sometimes we got to lose our loved one, one close to us. Vance Amory was a real statesman, he was the boaster. One thing with him, he was a real statesman, he was the boaster. And I want to say good night to Sister Clara. More than good night. Brother, you all have a wonderful and good night, Stanley. Okay, brother.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to thank you all because we're doing real good. People are well organized, and as I said, we'll take as many of you as we can in the time allotted, right? So 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. I want to hear from you. I don't want to just stay there and say, well, let somebody. We want to hear from you. right? So I don't want to have any space. Every time I look across, I want to see the phone ringing, so somebody will say something, okay? 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. I don't want you also to wait until I say, well, we're just about out of time, and then you start. Call now, 1-869-469-1616 or 1700.
How do you plead? How do you plead? For all that development, I'm giving you a half sentence, 5 more years in government.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening. I'm calling from England. I would like to give a little tribute to my husband's. My husband is Vance's uncle.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Sorry?
Yes, could you go ahead, please?
Right. What I'm trying to say is good evening to all at Bonn Radio. And our family live in England, parish of Southampton. My husband is Vance's uncle. We would like to send our sincere condolences to all of Vance's family and all the people of Nevis. They are all in our thoughts and prayers at this sad time. Our family will cherish the memories of Vance and all the times he came to visit us here in England. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you so much. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening, Webbo.
Yes.
I'd just like to add my 2 cents piece to the program. Know Mr. Amory all my life. He has been exemplary, and he was a successful leader in every facet. I remember him as, well, playing cricket. He was a captain of the Nevis cricket team at one time. That's leadership. At school, he ended up being the headmaster of the school. That's leadership. He's at the top. Went to National Bank. He was a manager. That's leadership. A very cool gentleman. Got into politics. Became a premier of Nevis on 2 different occasions. Well, that is not enough to prove. I'll go on to show you another aspect where somebody mentioned earlier about him having the chance to become the Prime Minister of the Federation, and he turned it down. That was a very good decision. A lot of people have a lot of things to say about it, but the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The leader of the opposition then, who promised leadership, I'd like you to take your mind back to the convention of the Labour Party where they elected a new leader, and that leader is taunting and undermining the new leader of the Labour Party. I've seen that for myself, and without fear of contradiction, that is what would have happened if Vance Indy had taken the leadership from that gentleman. I'd like to say, extend my condolences to the family and friends and all Nevisians who lost a great man. Thank you very much, Webbo.
Okay, thanks much. I really appreciate everybody being to the point. Hello, good evening.
Webbo, good evening. I just want to put in my two cents. I know Amory since about 12 years old. He was the first man to ever buy me a bat. He saw the potential in me as a batsman. And for the years I've got involved with politics with him, organizing cricket and so on. And really, up until a few days before he left the island, I was very much involved with him because a few months ago he sponsored a dominant tournament that was held up here in New Orleans. And he really was a guy that looked out for his community, looked out for the whole and Nevis, and looked out for people like me who was very, 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 very close to him. And he helped a lot of people, but he was a man that didn't want his name called when he's helping anybody, and that was the whole mark of the man. He has served his country well, and may his soul rest in peace.
And who are you?
I'm the man, the guy Wise.
This is Wise. Okay, Wise. I could ask you a question. I'm not really. This is not the real Let's Talk format, you know. But I feel I want to ask you something. Is it okay?
Yeah.
You were his campaign manager?
Well,
don't answer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Don't answer, Wise. It's okay.
Yeah, Webbo. Yeah, but one of the things that people always say that, but he was very close. I remember when he decided to exit politics, he came and he asked me to find a successor, because what he's saying is that he's finished with, and he just wants us to find somebody in the community that can take over from him. And the night and when we had the meeting, he said that he's not going to leave until we have a candidate. And the whole mark of the man have come and served. He believed in succession plan, and he really did what he had to do. And you know, one of the things I remember a few years ago when CCM was at its kind of low, and we used to go around campaign, and he said, "Man, why is you got to take the mic? You got to take the mic." I said, "Man, you know, middle summer." He said, "Man, there ain't nothing. You got to take the mic." So that's how I was able to go on the same platform to talk on 4 occasions. I didn't like it, but then I was kind of because a lot of people didn't want to do it, I had to do it at that time, and I was proud of myself doing it, and I felt that I make a contribution towards the development of system and development of Nevis.
Well, you see, that's why I asked you the question, because I wanted people to know that you were the campaign manager of a great man. Okay, Wise? All right, have a good evening. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's the great Wise. Okay, 1-869-469-1616 or 1700. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. Webbo, I want to send my sympathy greetings to the family of Mr. Amory and the whole of Nevis. He was a great man. He will be missing, he is missing, and he will be forever be spoken of, all because of the greatness of him. And he was a very, very contented person, but Webbo, he had to be a special person on this earth here, and especially as a leader, because nowhere in the world you find a leader being found guilty of doing so many things and not even 5 minutes in prison, not $1 fine. And he was found guilty of doing so many things, but they were all good things, great things, and he will be forever be spoken of. Forever, have a good night.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
The whole country and made my inquiry, and tonight as judge and jury, a lot of nigga come vex with me.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert. I'm calling out of Central Station, Godfrey Blake. I would want to extend my condolences to the family of Mr. Amory, and not only to the family but to the entire citizens of Nevis and the wider federation. Indeed, he was somebody that I knew. We have spoken on many occasions, and I must admit that he was a gentleman who I found to be very, very, very humble. one of the things that stuck out in my mind about him is that Friday afternoon when they talk about election boundary changes in Parliament. I happened to turn on one radio and I heard it. ZIZ and I heard it. And the first thing that came to my mind, and I said it, I wonder where's Mr. Amory. For the simple fact that when he spoke, he would have been always cool, calm, and he gave sound words of wisdom. I miss him greatly. And again, to his family in particular, my condolences. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo.
Yes.
I would love to extend condolences to the Honorable Vance Amory's family, and this is coming from the boys in Leeds, Spencer, Avil, Franklin, and Michael. I was told to do that on behalf of them this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thanks much. Have a good evening.
Yes, same to you.
Find you guilty. Whoa, you're building this economy. You remove them houses in Newcastle.
I'll find you guilty.
You build new houses for them people.
Guilty, guilty.
You extend the runway at the airport.
I'll find you guilty.
You build a brand new depot airport.
Guilty, guilty.
And now it's a new brand terminal.
I'll find you guilty.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Webbo, good evening.
Yes.
I want to put in my 2 pence. Mr. Amory was a good man. And a very, very good man. And I was one of Mr. Amory's CCM man. I'm an Amory CCM. Webbo, Friday I heard that Mr. Amory was not feeling well. And I pulled out my phone. And I said, let me reach out to Mr. Amory. Because I wanted him to make a connection with me, for me, with the Prime Minister. So I said, instead of me reaching out to him to talk about business, I said, I understand you're not feeling well. I want you to know that you're in my thoughts and my prayers. Get well soon. Saturday morning, I wake up. I hear Mr. Amory gone. When I look at my phone, Mr. Amory didn't get a chance to read my message. Webbo, we have lost a great man. And something that I'm remembering all the time about Mr. Amory is when there was a move in St. Kitts about this emergency House of Assembly, Mr. Amory came up and he spoke and he said, what was the urgency in the emergency? Or what was the emergency in the urgency? And then all of a sudden, all the noise that was being made in the House of Assembly just cooled down. Nevis, St. Kitts would have lost a good man, a cool-headed man, and I don't really know how I'm feeling, but it just pains me to see that he was just here. Now he's not here anymore. If I want a sounding board, I can only come to you because Mr. Amory is not here anymore. Well, I just hope that he would have done the right thing and he would rest and have a peaceful rest. And the Lord would bless all of us and let us take a picture, take a page out of Mr. Amory's life. Thank you, Webbo.
Okay, thanks much. Have a good evening.
How do you plead?
Guilty.
For all that development, I'm giving you a harsh sentence, 5 more years in government. That's your punishment.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Webbo. Yeah, I just want, on behalf of myself and wife, to extend condolences to Mr. Amory's family. You know, I remember when I came to the Federation to take a presidency in the 90s, and I heard this name, Vance Amory. You know, I inquired, I said, you know, this is the guy who used to play cricket, and, you know, I was told yes. You know, I remember as a little boy listening, you know, when he was playing for the Combined Islands. And in his years of politics, you know, I always admired him as a politician. You know, he was always calm, cool. You know, you never hear him in, you know, any kind of, you know, stuff and, you know, this kind of thing. But I think Nevis has lost a great son, and he would be remembered for several things. So once again, on behalf of myself and my family, I just want to extend condolences to his family, and may his soul rest in peace. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and have a good evening.
Judging from what I see, this judging. Tell them play, not me again. I ain't singing no more in vain.
No more calypso, broken diesel.
The piece of land that they say is mine, I still can't get it since 99.
No more calypso, broken diesel.
But when I look around and see the progress in my country, I have to hit the stage again with some social commentary. Tourism improving daily, much better electricity. Small business on every corner, and now the schools having computer. And that is the truth, I only can sing the truth. With so much development, how could you condemn the government? A finance judge and jury, that blatant hypocrisy. Listen me, Vance and Amory, you and your party, I find you guilty. Oh, you're building this economy. You encourage offshore company.
I find you guilty.
Because them taxes help the country. Guilty. Now you resurfacing.
Okay, please, you all call 1-869-469-1616. Good evening, hello.
Good evening.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to give my little contribution. I want to say condolences to the family of Mr. Amory. I remember those girls when they used to come by the Sunday school there at Amos Chapel. Those are the days when I knew them, and I know Mr. Amory for a long time. And many persons have spoken of him as a calm leader, a calm person, one who, you know, I would describe him as a man of wisdom. He was a man of wisdom, and I believe that was one that caused him to be such a giant in his leadership. And I would hope that other politicians would take a page from him. And, you know, patience is a good virtue. And I also would hope that politicians after, because I've followed politics for many years, and the behavior of some politicians, you know, are not commendable. But Mr. Amory was a giant, a man of wisdom. And I remember the girls, and I want to send my condolences from my family to them out there and his wife. And may God continue to encourage and bless them with all the wisdom that he has shown, and all the visions and petitions that are brought, and he as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks much. And I want to thank you all for being so concise and powerful in your contribution. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening to you, Dr. Webbo.
Yes, you're on the air. Could you go ahead?
Okay, wonderful. Yes. Good night to you and your panel. I just want to say good night to Nevis and Finkes. I just want to do my little contribution as well. I just want to say send my condolences to Mr. Amory's wife and children, Adiola and Abena. He's my cousin, but he has gone to the great beyond. But to God be the glory, great things he has done. I just want to wish everybody well, and we continue to pray, and that God may continue to keep his family in such a time as this. May God bless you as we continue to listen. God bless you.
Okay, thanks much. I don't have all night. 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. Hello, good evening. I'm very sorry, please call back. I got only minutes left. So you want to call in 1-869-469-1616 and 1700.
No more calypso, rockin' Nico.
I getting old and I getting cold. Lucifer ain't gonna get me soul.
No more calypso.
Hello, good evening.
Good night, Webbo. This is the man from Brown Hill living in Sinkit, Shokai. I would like to send condolences to Mrs. Amory and her children on behalf of the passing of Mr. Amory. I refer to the gentleman as Mr. Cool and Calm. I remember a couple times I called out to him and his response was, "Hello, how are you doing?" That's how he answered me. And I guess that's how he answered a lot of people. Cool and quiet. Sympathy goes out to the people of Nevis as well, and in general, the people of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, coming from Shokai. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks much. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Oh, hello, good evening.
You're on
hello. This is Iola Brown from Nevis. I want to talk about Vance. I was Vance's teacher in Form 1, and he was a very good student. So I really feel very saddened that his loss. And then I went to New York, and I had a school there, and it was at my school in Brooklyn, New York, that he really had his CCM meetings. So we have lost a great person. So to his wife, his children, and his whole family, please accept my condolences. And fellow divisions, this is Iola Brown, back in Nevis again. Love to all. Okay, bye.
Okay, thanks much. Have a good evening. One 869-469-1616 and 1700. In between, I want to thank you all for being so cooperative. Good evening. Thank you for holding. Go ahead, please.
Good night, Mr. Herbert. I will always remember Mr. Amory by his smiles and hugs. May God continue to bless his wife Bernie and his children, Abena and Adiola. Thank you. Have a good night.
Oh, thanks much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Me come back one more entry. You better tell the nation what's happening in the country.
Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening. I would like to send condolences to the Amory family, the wife, the children, and especially Meredith. I know she missed him a lot, because each time we talk, she would always say they're about to play domino, or they're going to play domino. I remember him because whenever he meets me, he would always say, "Oh, look at those eyes." And, he would say, I won't say that because of my name. He found out what my real name was, and he was saying it to me, and I said, I don't like that name. That's why I don't let people know it. But he looked at my name tag at the hospital, and so he said, whenever he saw me, he would say, no, I won't say it. And with that smile. So he sadly missed. But, time come and he has to go. He has done his work. I know that there are a place for people up there like him. God bless. And we, the Federation, missed him dearly and sadly. God bless you. Thanks for what you are doing. I know you're always a thoughtful man to do something like this. God bless you, Mr. Herbert.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yeah, God bless.
They want me to condemn the ruling party, but I hate this group. I only can sing the truth. So I went to the whole country and made my inquiry, and tonight as judge and jury, all of the nigga come vex with me. Vance and we
Remember, I only have minutes left. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Robert. Hello?
Yes, you're on. Could you go ahead?
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm calling from St. Kitts, and one of the saddest things with the passing of Vance is that many of us wanted to wait until he was able for him to hear our voice and wish him the very best. But his passing has been so sad, and we wish him the very best and give him all the support we can to his family. And may God richly bless his soul. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks much. Have a good evening.
I'm giving you a half sentence, 5 more years in government. That's a punishment. 5 more years in government. Let me go. Why, yeah.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
You're on the air. Could you go ahead?
Yes, I'm calling from Curacao.
Yes, go right ahead, please. Go right ahead. You're on the air.
I'm calling from Curacao. Vance was my cousin, my father's nephew, Cedric Robert Hezekiah Matthew. I extend my condolences to his wife, Ernie, his children, his sisters and brothers, and the rest of the family. Vance was a very nice person, attentive, calm, humble, and loving. It is a blessing to hear so much good things about him. He was great. He's resting in peace now, and he's with the Father, where God wants his great people to be. Good evening, and thank you.
Thanks much. Have a good evening.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Webbo. Good evening to your panel this evening. A very sad time for us, Webbo. One of the things when these things happen, I can recall thinking, if only we took the time to tell those we love and respected and all of those things, if we took the time to tell them while they could hear it, how wonderful that would be. We have become very good at speaking a lot of wonderful things about people when they're gone. Let's start trying to do that while they were alive. Mr. Amory was one of the dearest people to me, and he knew it. We would always have jokes. And I had the opportunity, maybe fortunately I did not know at the time, about 2-3 weeks ago, to have a conversation with him. And he was always very interested in how I was doing, especially now that Dad's gone. And he would always call and ask for my dad. And shared about, Webbo, you remember he was our school teacher in school, and I had tremendous respect for him because he had a hand in molding me to where I am today. And I just want to say to my deepest condolences to his family members, his friends, his associates, the members of his party. May his soul rest in eternal peace. A wonderful, wonderful soul is gone. Wonderful, wonderful soul is gone. Have a good night, Webbo.
Okay, thanks much. Have a good evening.
No more calypso from Kinvisa.
But when I look around.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Mr. Webbo, good night. My name is Wyoming Johnson. I'm calling from the States, from New York. I just want to give my deepest condolences to Mr. Amory's family on the behalf of myself and my sister Sonia, who's here in New York, and my family in Nevis. and to let the people of Nevis know that we join them in praying that God rest Mr. Amory's soul in eternal peace.
Okay, thank you, and have a nice evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening. I would like to... Good evening.
Yes, you're on. Could you go ahead?
I would like to...
No, you can't. You
I would like
keep
to
talking.
say condolences to the family of Mr. Amory. On behalf of my family from Prospect. One of the good things he used to say when you see me, calls, how are you doing? With a smile. And I hope and trust that he make it right. Condolences to the family. Thank you, Webbo.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Now I only have minutes left, huh? Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert. Good evening, sir.
You're listening on the computer?
No, let me turn on the voice. Let me turn on the voice. Yeah, good evening.
Yes, go ahead, please.
I would like to say condolences to the family of Mr. Amory. I knew Mr. Amory many years ago. I played cricket with him. I played football with him. I umpired games when he was playing. You know, he was not just a good man, and he became honorable when he went into politics. He was honorable, and he took that with him into politics. He's one of the things that I've heard about him is that when he was a teacher and he misses a student from school, he would not go home unless he go find the parents to find out what was wrong, why the student was not in school. You know, and he always questioned. If he passed on the road, wherever, he always inquired about your well-being. You know, and so I just want to say condolences to the family and wish everyone well. I know the Nevis public and the Caribbean public, even though is going to miss him. And I just want to say condolences and wish them Godspeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. And I want to thank you in the audience for being so cooperative. In other words, I like how you all working with me. 469-1869-469-1616 and 1700. Everybody has been very good tonight, right? And I only have minutes left, so I want you to get in and let's hear from you, right? Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. I just want to send my condolences to Bernie and the loss of Mr. Amory and to the whole nation. I know Mr. Amory from since I was going to school. He was my headmaster. He's a very firm, disciplined man. I know him during the time of his reign with politics because I've been around the city all them time. One thing I could remember, that Sunday when we were marching uptown when NRP was about to swear in the park, and the crowd was ranting and rearing, and he was the one who was saying, peace, peace, let us just be calm, we're just going to walk. And, you know, he was a true leader, and I've known him around cricket, but me and he had a very good relationship. He would always see me and he would say, what a rush, too close to call. And that's how he would greet me all the time. And he's going to be greatly missed. That event, I feel like he went in a little rush. But, you know, because we didn't get to see him in the last days much. This time just about a month ago.
and he was still looking in good shape to me. But, you know, death in the midst of life is death, so what can we do? When we gotta go, we just gotta go. Those are your words, Webbo, but they are truly sound words. And I guess his time came when he had to go, so we just want to stay strong and stay with the family and wish them all the best in this time of bereavement, even though all of us feel in the same pain. Thank you, Webbo.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening. 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. I know. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. On behalf of the Claxton and Jeffers family, I would like to give my condolences to the family of Vance Amory, a great man, a wonderful person. On behalf of us, the Jeffers and Claxton, we would like to say condolences to Vernie and especially to Meredith. God bless you and may He comfort you.
Okay, thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right. I want you all to know. Now this is in the playground, right? I told you all that I only have minutes left and you all waiting until now to call. Anyway, I got a couple more minutes. So 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. I'd like to say how appreciative we are that you cooperated with us. Everybody's been forceful, to the point, and really appreciate it. And I can tell you the family appreciate it as well. And when I say the family, in the first instance, the Nevis family, you know, because that's who it was. And then the wider federation, and then the Caribbean, and across the world. 1-869-469-1616 and 1700.
How do you plead? For all that development, giving you a harsh sentence. 5 more years in government, that's your punishment. 5 more years in government. Let me go. Why, yeah. Judging from what I see, this judging. Not me again, I ain't singing no more in vain.
No more calypso, rockin' diesel.
The piece of land that they say is mine, I still can't get it since 99.
No more calypso, rockin' diesel.
But when I look around and see the progress in my country, I have to hit the stage again with some social commentary. Tourism improving daily, much better electricity. Small business on every corner, and now the schools having computer. And that is the truth, I only can sing the truth. With so much development, how could you condemn the government? A finance judge and jury, that blatant hypocrisy. Listen me, Vance and we, you and your party, I find you guilty. Oh, you're building this economy. You encourage offshore company.
I find you guilty.
Because them taxes help the country.
Guilty, guilty.
Now you resurfacing the main road.
I find you guilty.
I find that you're a man to your word.
Guilty, guilty.
No income houses for your people.
I find you guilty.
Hello, good evening.
Praise the Lord. Good evening. Good night, Webbo. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Well, this is Miss Nesbitt calling in. And praying that the family is all well and good and keeping up. I know this is a sad time, but Mr. Amory is one of the greatest men on earth. It's a pity that we have to lose people and we get saddened by this, but it is something that we have to live with. So to the family and friends and loved ones and myself as a co-umpire, we used to umpire together. We used to do lots of things together, thank God for life. And he was a very special person in my life. So, to God be the glory, may his soul rest in peace.
Okay, thank you, and you have a good
From the
evening.
Nisbet family.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening. It's good to hear
Love
from
you,
you.
baby.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know something? It's time for me to check out. When a man's gotta go, right? I'd like to thank all of you for participating.
I tell them flat, look, I'm done with that. On this stage I'm not going back.
No more calypso, rockin' beats on.
I'm getting old and I'm getting cold. Lucifer ain't gonna get me soul.
No more calypso, rockin' beats on.
But me fans are asking me, me come back one more entry. You better tell the nation what's happening in the country. Opposition they calling.
This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community. Thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program are solely those